Coterminal angles are an idea that if I'm walking around in a circle, I'm in the same spot every time I make a full loop. You can think of it if I'm walking on a track and I start here at 0, 30 degrees later, I'm here. But if I kept walking and I walked all the way around, I'd end up there again on my next circuit around. And I'd end up there again if I kept going. So these other angles are going to be the same as a 30-degree angle, just with that 360 added. Here I added it once, here I added it twice. And maybe I went the other way instead. But I got to the same spot. So if I went in the negative direction, I could get there, and maybe there'd be some spirals that way too. So because I get a fresh start every 360 degrees or every 2 pi radians, those are what coterminal angles are. So now I'll look at some examples where we calculate those for specific angle measures. Usually what we're trying to do is we're trying to undo the looping around. We don't want to loop around. We want to know the coterminal angle that's between 0 and 360, or between 0 and 2 pi. We want to know what happens if I just start here, go in the correct direction, and don't loop back on myself. So, for example, if I want to find an angle between 0 and 2 pi that's coterminal with 29 pi over 6. Someone looped around and looped around and looped around until they got to 29 pi over 6. So the first thing I have to do is I have to figure out, is this already between 0 and 2 pi? Well, if I want to get 2 pi on a common denominator with this, 2 pi times 6 over 6, because that'd just be 1, I'd get 12 pi over 6. So any number bigger than 12 is too big, and any number that's negative is too small. So now I just want to subtract 2 pi. I want to remove a loop. Say, well, back up, go back around, one less loop. Okay, one less loop until I get all the way back to an angle measure that is less than 12 pi over 6, because that would be pi over 2, which would be our upper boundary. So conveniently, I already have a common denominator now, so I can just subtract this as many times as I need to until I get to my answer. 29 minus 12, so 17 pi over 6. 17 is still bigger than 12, so I'm going to subtract another 2 pi, another 12 pi over 6. 17 minus 12 is 5, so now I have 5 pi over 6. And this number is between 0 and 12/6, or 2 pi. So it's one of the ones that will be on my unit circle if I take it out of its sheet protector so you can actually see the numbers. And it is 5 pi over 6, it's right here. So if we loop around just part of a way, we'd get there with 5 pi over 6, and then if I did it 2 more times, I would end up at 29 pi over 6. So that would be the coterminal angle for that. I can also do this with negative numbers in degrees, so I will do an example that has both of those. If I have negative 1020 degrees, and I want to find an angle that's coterminal to that, that's in my just standard unit circle. So I'd want it to be between 0 and 360. So I've only looped around in this direction and less than one full circuit. Whereas right now I've looped around in the negative direction quite a few times. So in this case, 360 degrees, I want this to be between 0 degrees and 360 degrees. And this is smaller than 0. And that means instead of subtracting 360 like I would if it were too big, it's too small. So I need to add 360. So negative 1020 degrees plus 360 degrees. Go ahead and add that. I'm going to use a calculator for that. And I get 660, which is still too small. Still a negative number. So negative 660 degrees. Well, what happens if I add 360 to that? Negative 660 degrees plus 360 degrees. My math sense is tingling and saying that this is still going to be too small, but I will do it. Plus 360, and I get negative 300, so I am, as one could see, getting closer. So I take negative 300 degrees. I add 360. And this time my math sense is telling me, oh yeah, that's going to be a positive number because 360 is bigger than 300. And I get 60 degrees. So this 60-degree angle is the same as the one I would get if I went backwards 1020 degrees. So that's how you can find coterminal angles. You're just adding and subtracting one rotation each time, either 2 pi or 360. You add it if it's too small, if it's a negative number, and you subtract it if it's too big, if it's a positive number that's larger than 360 or 2 pi.